How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the first show of two today. We've got uh, a new friend coming in, Kerri Lake. She's I'll tell you a little bit about her. She's masterful in many ways, utilizing her innate gifts and abilities. She integrates wisdom, guidance, and communication from every realm of consciousness to assist and accelerate people's own integrations. Uh, she helps people and animals of all species to know the sense of living in harmony and clarity. So let's pull her up here, Kerri Lake, and let's see what's happening on her end of the great unveiling. Get to know her a little bit. Uh-oh. She disappeared. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. There she is. We have a connection.
Sweet. Hey,
How's it
Todd.
going? Yeah, how's it going, Kerri Lake? What's going on?
Oh my God, it's fast. Everything is going so fast. Like it's hard to recognize anything, like what is my work? What am I doing? Because just change. I actually really love it. Like the environment of change for its own sake.
Yeah.
That's a really fun place for me.
Yeah, you're right about that too. It's like, what do I do? Like,
Yeah, totally.
like today it's what you think you know, and then tomorrow you wake up and it's like, wait a minute, nothing applies anymore that applied yesterday. So it's like going on a scavenger hunt every day.
I love it. Yeah, and to be playful with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the actual experience of just be exactly where you are right now and don't look for anything else. Like look at what's actually with you right now.
Yeah.
Like that experience is so palpable. It's like the flavors, everything. And I just love that dichotomy going on with all of the fear when you have yourself oriented to knowing harmony, like to knowing what the truth is and the spaciousness of love. It's so easy to recognize the fear now and go, oh, right, yeah, no, thanks, actually, we're going this way. And it's intense but gentle, so gentle when we just go, oh, right. So
right.
That's, yeah. And that's what my life is like.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because the universal energies, obviously, I think everybody can say that it's been supporting us, more and more and more. It's more and more obvious, and then now it's taken on a kind of a collective, literal things such as solitude, isolation, things being cut off from our everyday experience that basically are leading to potentially, it looks to me like more self-introspection.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. Yeah.
Well, I just watched a sweet video from a woman. She's an Irish woman in Milan. Her name is Allison. I put it up on my Facebook page. But, being in Italy a month ahead of the rest of the world with all of the fear and how do you function when everybody's supposed to be isolated, she's just sharing how people are they're going out for walks, they're going out to play, they're acknowledging each other, when they go out, they're actually more respectful of each other. And even if you are not consciously of this mindset of clarity and awakening and higher frequencies, there's so much support for people to just, be aware, be mindful, treat each other well, because we're all in this. It is such there's so much benevolence. This is proof that the universe is benevolent. It's just how hard do you want to fight against that, to maintain your opportunity to go against yourself, which I think is just ironically hysterical.
Yeah, the frequency that's occurring is conducive to what you're talking about. Being present, basically. Being present.
Yeah.
pulling our head out of the sand. So you, have a very interesting, um, you know, life experience, energy field, um, in terms of working with people, working with animals, pulling from all parts of the universal source intelligence, in general. This is all in general.
Yeah.
When did you go to sleep? I mean, most people that come on talk about how they had it when they were young, and then they
Yeah.
went into the matrix, kind of went to sleep, and then boom, boom, boom. On or around 2012, they start to have a reawakening. Did you go through that, or were you awakened the entire time?
So the first memory was infancy, of watching an infant's hand float over my face into my vision and going like, oh my God, I know what that is. That's my hand. I'm back. Oh my God. And I was like so excited. I know exactly what to do. And I know why I'm here. And then you just become an infant again. And so, I guess that's going back to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Um, age 3 was another just wide opening, total clarity, watching my parents fight and just going, no, there's a different way. I'm going to show you. And
Mm.
then you go back to being 3, although when I was 3 and 4, I would be doing energetic work on the dog and anybody else who would sit still, and I would just go sit with the apple trees and they would tell me jokes, and I would lay in the grass and listen to the symphony and the bugs and the clover, and just that was what was natural. um, but there was no context for it, and I
Mm.
remember being told, no, the dog is not talking to you, and no, you don't remember what happened before you were born, things like that, just because you know the people in my life were not of that
Yeah.
context. So then, yeah, I did a lot of research when I was young, trying to understand, okay, if people say this but do this, what does that mean? Like at that level of consciousness, trying to figure out how to navigate this place.
Yeah.
But then, family stuff, and then you're a kid and you do kid stuff, and although it was always hard for me to understand why social things, why people are mean to each other, and then they call that social skills, and that's always how it occurred to me. So around age 10, my dad moved for work, so we went from the Midwest out to California, which was fantastic, but also horrendous, because we moved into an area in Silicon Valley where I couldn't feel anybody else who talked to the animals. And everything was just very, very strange and seemed insane to me. So,
Mm.
yes, I was back asleep, but still aware, still
Yeah.
paying attention from my higher levels,
Yeah.
not able to embody the clarity I was aware of, right? So age 11, there was stuff going on in my family, and I would watch National Geographic and just tune into the rest of the world and listen to the animals and listen to what was being said, and then listen to what was not being said.
Mm.
And just started, that's when I was like 11, is when I just started going super direct. Like, what is the truth? People say this and then they do that, and then they blame me, and that's weird, and they tell me not to lie, but then they lie. And it was absolutely insane trying to noodle that through with an 11-year-old psyche, an
Wow.
11-year-old emotional capacity. So I did have, there's no way I could talk about it back then. I didn't have cognition of it, but I knew the presence and the experience and the capacity to just change energy, to go in between thoughts and consciousness and emotions. That was just innate. Like it's like a lot of people think of, when you give them the space to talk from their true knowing, they'll say like, doesn't everybody know this? Why doesn't everybody should, I can feel
Right.
it in you. Why aren't you aware of it?
Right.
So I would just go direct and demand the truth. What is the truth here? And it I was actually listening to Morgan yesterday in her conversation with, I don't remember the other
Hung,
girl's name.
Hung
Yeah.
Win.
Yeah, I loved listening to that, and the what Morgan is sharing with people about play with both extremes to neutralize the charge, and
Mm,
it creates a space for you to come forward.
yeah.
That's what I was doing when I was 11 and 12, you know, from a cognition of like, well, I hate this thing, but somebody else created it for a reason. They love it. So show me why other people love what I hate so I don't have to hate it.
Mm,
Right. So it's a similar approach to exploring both polarities so that nothing is wrong and you can just keep going.
yeah.
You don't have to get stuck in fighting for what's right or what's wrong. And so between 11 and 14 was 14, 15 was a lot of logic, using divine logic, I guess, intuitive logic,
Hmm.
to come to the clarity of like, look, what's really important here is human awareness. Our
Mm,
awareness creates. So if I did nothing in my life but sit on a porch swing and be aware of what I find beautiful, I'm changing the whole universe. And so is
wow.
everybody else. Right.
Wow.
Then you go back
That's
to
cool.
sleep. Sorry.
No, that's cool. That's a great explanation. So many of the best explanations are just really simple, you know.
Because this is my favorite thing. Like, okay, how simple can this really be? How
Hmm.
simple is this really? If it's all frequency, let's play with it as if it's frequency.
Yeah.
Like in the movie Lucy, where you can just zoom in on the
Yeah.
communication lines. That's really what it's like once you have command of your own perception.
Yeah.
Once you're friends with your own perception,
Yeah. That's a good example. Like when she puts her hands out and opens up the lines, and it's almost like you're grabbing something to play with or to look at or to
That's
utilize.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like if nothing's good, nothing's bad, you
Hmm.
know, like what are we really talking about here? If I really have command of everything and everything is frequency, and honestly, consciousness is open source, right?
Yeah.
We're all contributing, we're all downloading, it's open source. So where would I like to zoom in?
Yeah.
And it really does come down to your friendship and your absence of judgment with yourself. It's not about being the purest thing ever. It's, yes, that's great, like bring that on. But if you're trying to be the purest thing to be different than you are, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is what I love that you're saying, the human is the hero. I love that you talk about that.
Mm.
Like, how simple can that be, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much
Yeah.
can I really see what this is without trying to escape it,
Yeah.
and without
Yeah.
judging it?
Yeah. That's true. That's very true. When did you open up and start doing what you do? Were you in your teens still, or was it later in life?
Um, to be sharing it with people.
Well, and even to be working with animals and people and that type of
Uh,
thing.
so when I was 12 was the first time I had to admit that I wasn't like the other kids.
Mm,
And that, because horses would respond differently to me than anybody else. Like all the hard ones would come stand next to me and take a nap, right? And what I knew, all I was doing was listening to them. They would say, "This is hard." And I would say, "I totally get it," and just rub their neck. And just like when we hear each other very deeply, the animals love being heard without somebody trying to make them be different than they are.
yeah.
And that was when I first was aware of it for myself. As far as helping other people, going through like from age 16 and through college was terrifying for me. And sorry, I don't know if you can hear that, but
You're
it
good.
was it was terrifying for me. It was totally schismatic, and people gave me a depression diagnosis, and they put me on drugs, and I couldn't explain myself because I was trying so desperately to be normal still. And it was like a conscious thing. Like, if I'm the only one who knows that life is beautiful and nobody else can see it, maybe there is something wrong with me. I was willing to explore that, right?
Mm.
But you can't explain that to people who don't have the same perspective. They just say, Kerri, why can't you just be happy? When I'm trying to help other people, like I was trying to make myself as unhappy as them for the opportunity to lead them out. And it
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So it was,
It's like, why don't you be normal when you're like going, I am normal. Everybody else is not normal.
yes, like, why do you think that is normal?
Yeah.
And it is a lightness of heart, you know?
Mm.
So I started helping people. It was later. 2006, I stepped away from an abusive marriage. And that happened because I was given the awareness, like, if you literally spend one more day doing what you're doing, dear one, the flame will go out. Like I had visited death when I was 24 because I was distraught, and I just took myself there and had a chat and was reminded how much I love being here, because this is the only place you can eat cookies and croissants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw that the flame was going to go out, that was when
What do you mean by the flame was going to go out? Your journey would be over if you didn't turn it around?
I would leave the body.
Okay. And when you went up to have this discussion about death,
Yeah.
24,
Yeah.
what energy were you talking to?
So it was going into that beautiful space that's called the void, except it's everything. It's black because it's everything, you know? It's the most sublime love, like, ever. And it was being received by divine family. It occurred to me as like two different essences that I knew that had been with me forever, that we would call Saint Francis. And the other is a person who's actually in a body now, who didn't have a body back then, named William
Really?
Lind. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty
Uh,
cool. Did you know that at the time?
At the time, I knew it was two essences speaking as one. It never occurred to me to ask for names, because
Mm.
while it felt like something other than me, it also wasn't other than me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it was me, but it felt differentiated somehow, different tone, but still me. And never occurred to me to ask about names until my late 30s, when I did meet other people, you know,
Yeah.
healers and practitioners who had different vocabulary for all this.
Yeah.
So it was
So,
later.
and you're referring to St. Francis of Assisi?
Yeah, that tone, the being that was Saint Francis of
Yeah.
Assisi.
I've
Yeah.
never heard of anyone that has run into him in the ethers, but I read his that book of his. I can't remember the name of it, but years ago. I
Yeah.
liked it. It was very good. And so like later on you figured out it was that essence as well as this individual who hadn't incarnated who's now incarnated.
That's right. Yeah. And I
And
just
do you have a connection, like a overt connection with the one that's incarnated?
yes, he's been assisting me directly for 13 years. And I
Wow.
don't, maybe, I'm sure people in the community know him. It's William Linville.
William Linville. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did he approach you or did you approach him and say, hey, I had a chat with you when I was 24?
So um, after I left the marriage, I was like looking for things to be different, still not totally conscious of it, you know, like I was not integrated at that point.
Right.
And so I would get on, you know, teleconferences. This was in 2006. And that paradigm of teleconferences was kind of just ramping up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked to this other woman who had also been with horses, and horses had really helped her. So I felt very connected, started talking to her, but it was clear, like, I need something else here. Like, I need some really big assistance here. And so she basically said, I think I know someone who can help you. And she connected me with William, who was who had been doing teleconferences for maybe a year or two at that point. And the moment I heard the tone of his voice, like half a syllable, I'm like crying and laughing at the same time. Like, I know you. I already know you. Why do I already know you? But it was like feeling home and incarnated at the same time.
Wow.
And I felt immediate, like, I know this guy. And when I did get to talk to him on the phone, I brought that up to him. and said, we've already been working together for a long time. And he said, yeah, about 18 years, which was before he incarnated as well. He came in as a walk-in as well. So I've been loving the conversations that you guys have been sharing.
Oh, wow. So he came in as a walk-in.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a very, yeah.
And so like the animals. Now I know you have a certain congruence with animals or connection. What is their role here? Do they ever tell you? Like,
That's such
I
a
mean,
beautiful question.
well, I mean, like on one hand, they look like they're, I'm just going to speak frankly, like lesser than, controllable, domesticated, put in zoos, or
Yeah.
eaten, whatever. But there's always been a part of me that thought, I think we're the low one on the totem pole here. They're all
Yeah.
in the know, but waiting for us to catch up. Have they had a collective message to you over the years?
Big time. And it's I'm so happy that you framed it that way, because a lot of people will either put the animals above us, or, mass consciousness might put them below us. They are side by side, but they have a different consciousness than humanity. Humanity has a uniquely different consciousness than non-human incarnated life. And aside from being a resource for food and work and assisting humanity, and in assisting humanity directly, the animal kingdom are an energetic anchor that helps keep the physical world functioning. They're part of the grid systems that actually can help our conscious evolution and the conscious evolution of all of life continue to go forward, because they are a living, breathing, moving, reproducing being that is absent of judgment, that's absent of the propensity or even the ability to go against their nature. This is what's unique about human consciousness. We have the freedom, and this is how I see it, that the big experiment of this version of humanity has been the freedom and the opportunity to go against our nature with no repercussion. Like, go for it, create, do what you're going to do. Let's see what you do with it. Yeah. And the animal kingdom does not have a consciousness to go against their nature. So not only are they an anchor for the grid systems of the energetics of physicality on this planet, but they are also, because of that same purity, an amazing, beautiful beacon to open the hearts of humanity.
Yeah, almost like they're a constant collective consciousness that doesn't go against its nature. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Kind of like a tuning fork for the human species.
Yes, because we have that within ourselves. Mm-hmm. The conditioning for however long has been, no, really, it's more fun to go against your nature. Look at the power. Look at what you can do. Look at you. But the moment we stop choosing that, I think I've heard you guys talk about this too, is like when you stop choosing other than your nature, that is when your divinity can truly pick you up on the wave and carry you in that buoyancy and that effortlessness into creation that you don't have to intend, right? Yeah, intention is still a choice. Yeah, and so when you stop intending and instead bring your awareness right to the heart center and say, well, then show me what harmony feels like to me today through my cells, through my DNA. Let that be my priority, and then show me what tasks I can do. That's living much more closely to what.
That's a good point. Beacon. That's a really good point. I'm big on, intentions are everything, but I think because we've gone into more of a quantum field, all the math has changed, and you're right. Better to start from, which I mentioned this on the last show. I've actually been applying this myself. Not that I haven't done it before, but like every morning now, it's okay. What can I do to serve? And please support me. Please help me to be in alignment. Please tell me what to say and what to do. In other words, and then I go. And
Yeah.
it is, you're right. That's a really good point. It is not intentional. It's like, show me the way. And then, to be conscious and to make an effort to be aware, like, reading the terrain or reading the signs or the synchronicities becomes the propulsion versus I'm going to go do this because, right?
Completely, yes. And so, like, when we say show me, the next thing I had to look at is, where is that information going to present? If I say show me, is it going to come, in an email?
Yeah.
Maybe, but where's the purity? And so this too, I learned back from the connection with animals, is they're not using linear language, not the way humans do. They're not writing things down, they're not systematizing things per se. They are feeling where the harmony is, where is the movement happening, where is the information, what does the information feel like as me, right? And so when I'm going to say show me, I'm going to take my awareness to my physicality and then watch what changes.
Yeah.
And, like, again, how simple can this be? How simple can I really let this be? And so, like, even here, as we're sitting here together, if you take your awareness to your body, not to make something change, but to say, hey, body, show me what the movement of harmony with life feels like in my cells right now, given who I am right now, you can actually invoke it, and you just give yourself 5 or 10 seconds and watch that frequency come forward in your body.
Yeah.
Subtle or
That's
grand.
good. Yeah. And
That
I like,
right there.
yeah. And I like the word invoke
Mm.
because to me that to me it's different, because it's like it's coming from the internal,
It's
as
very
opposed to
empowering.
like the way that we kind of got here was external, what we thought was external, like this divine essence presented itself and it's over there and I'm over here. But
Right.
now I'm now, and I use that word, I'll say I'm going to invoke the master dragon, I'm going to invoke Archangel Michael energy, to go do this or go do, whatever comes natural. Do the have the animals had a kind of a collective message in the last few months? And what I mean by that is, have they communicated to you at all? Hey, you guys are waking up. Hey, we're fixing to have a party, that type of thing.
Yes. So the way I see that is, the message that keeps coming, like, if I'm going to put it into words, is see yourselves the way we see you. See yourselves the way we see you, which is no judgment. Like, there you are. Okay. This is how it feels. Okay. See yourselves the way we see you. And the way I see the animals coming forward is, it's subtle, but it's really big. Like, for example, legislation in China, in response to this whole virus thing, China has said it's now illegal to eat wild animals, dogs and cats. I mean, look at the cultural change that can happen when people are told it's no longer acceptable. You need to have a different relationship with these animals now. Right? And it's not about the correctness or the incorrectness of eating animals. That could be a whole other show in and of itself, right? But it's about, how do I relate to these other living beings?
Yeah.
And
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying, because and not to go off on that tangent, but
yeah,
the animal, like you said, there's no judgment. It's
right.
all instinctive. So, I mean, and I'm not trying to like create a debate with anyone out there. So, but if I'm thinking about the message that they're giving you, the frequency, the feeling that it brings, the
Yes.
natural rhythms of it, and so, well, we're a different consciousness. Yes, they want us to see us as they see us. They eat each other, you know.
Right.
Uh, I mean, it's not uh, the literal thing. It's
Right.
the message, the the energy of that message that they're giving you. And
Yes. To
but
me, it's honor yourself enough to be aware of your relationships. Like, for example, every single human on the planet has a relationship with animals, whether it's through art or sport or your family members, or, you know, even if all you ever do is eat animals, eating animals is a profoundly intimate relationship with
hmm
animals.
hmm
It's just that most people have not explored that perspective
yeah.
before, to receive the love of beings who exist in part to feed other beings.
Mm.
And it's a high level conversation for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
I get it. Now, are the elementals, is the elemental kingdom part of your um, contact group? Part of your experience, and
Yeah.
are they uh, where do they fall with the animal kingdom, like the nature beings, the elementals? I mean, are they tied in with them? Are they a separate consciousness as well?
Separate consciousness, separate frequencies, right? Because the elementals, through the plants and the animal, or through the plants and the rocks and the minerals, it's there. It's just a different part of the grid systems that keep life moving through this physical existence. For myself, I it there are people who are profoundly connected and identified with the elementals, even the elves and the sprites and the fairies and the gnomes. And for myself, it's more like, hey guys, thanks for everything, I'll be over
hmm
here.
Yeah.
And so if people ask about it specifically, we tune in and share. But I think my relationship with them, just like with the animals, is side by side.
Yeah.
Just like you go into a room full of people, you're not necessarily intimately close with every person, although you really love that everybody's there doing their
Yeah.
thing. And
Part of the part of the hood, part of the universal hood.
exactly. Like, so really, who am I when I'm side by side with everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's what everybody else wants from me. Big picture is, show us who you are so we can be related to you, so
Mm,
we know ourselves in relation to you.
mm.
And this is that genuineness, that um the uniqueness that you are, the authenticity. This to me is like the simplicity of that
Yeah.
invocation. Is why do I care about being authentic? Well, because that's how everybody else can know themselves in
Yeah.
relation to each other.
Almost like a mirror, a frequency of truth, authenticity, transparency, telepathy. It's like a frequency of truth, the
Yes.
natural, the natural language or something, if you will. And so they look at the mirror that is you or me, uh, when that mirror is aligned with their authenticity, and then they are able to actually gain from that.
But
Um,
let me ask you, in a symphony orchestra, is the viola a mirror for the violin?
uh, Only in respect to what you just said. Like
Right.
literally, no, but
Right.
energetically, if you based on what you just said, which I resonate with, yeah,
Yeah.
would say yeah.
So I'm picking on the word mirror a little bit,
Mm,
because I think people default with that word,
yeah,
and end up giving themselves away, as giving their uniqueness away, or not acknowledging the uniqueness of another with this terminology of
yeah.
mirror, like we're mirrors. I get it, and all my
No, I
heart.
hear what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I was given that 9 years ago. I was given three basic axioms, which was there is one, there's a perfect order of the universe, and we are each unique and equal souls. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
I cringe a little bit with with the mirror thing um, to an extent, but like in relation to what you're talking about, yeah, we're all even though this is a duality that's transitioning, but I mean, the individuality is front and center, isn't it?
Yeah,
Whether it's one kingdom next to another or one person next to another, right?
it's the uniqueness. Absolutely. So like I was thinking about this before we hopped on, right? Because I know there's the big conversation is the oneness,
Mm-hmm.
and we are one. We are all part of this creation that's happening, right?
Yeah,
But how blessed we are that we have so many different uniquenesses,
yeah,
right? So I don't have to be the one who eats liver and onions, because that doesn't work for me, right? Somebody else can do that part. And how blessed we are to have our uniquenesses, or
yeah,
do this job or that job, or whatever. And the oneness comes in the experience of the harmony of us all.
yeah,
And so like when we tune in and zoom in that way and go, okay, body, show me the presence of harmony, it starts to get really clear
yeah.
how to function with disharmony.
Well, if you
Because
think about, yeah, if you think about it too, what you said about the animals
yeah.
wanting us wanting us just to be authentic, to own our piece of the puzzle.
Mm,
Morgan said for years, since I met her, the road to oneness is through the path of individuality. It's exactly the same energetic frequency that you're talking about. So we're actually making the utmost contribution to the collective discovery, rediscovery, uh, oneness,
yeah.
the oneness expansion by being who we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's relaxing.
Yeah.
It's
If you can be who
profoundly
you are, then
relaxing.
that gives me the keys to be who I am, gives me some code to be who I am. It's just like the animals telling you about the humans. That's fascinating. What
Yeah.
about the in your interactions or in the work you do and your experience with, let's say, inner Earth and star family in the cosmos? Do
Mm-hmm.
you have much interaction with those kingdoms?
Yeah, and actually you even just saying that could just bring me to tears. It's just so much love. So much love, so much support. And oh man, I could talk. Yeah, I've had lots of experience, especially off planet,
Hmm.
and being asked, will you be our channel? Will you speak for us and all that? And um, there's so much, Todd. Like there's so much information. I had to at one time say, that's
Well,
enough. That's enough. Like I don't know what to do with all of this.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but
Do you,
there too, it's not so much the way I see it, the way I came to see it after being overwhelmed and having such clarity through my experiences, in the body as well as the expansive experiences. The clarity that I always came back to was, it wasn't about um, having having a handle on all the information. It was more about, who am I in relationship to it? What is my uniqueness as this information moves through consciousness? Because it's always there. We're not going to miss it.
mm-hmm.
It's about how well do I know myself, so that how well can I use my own systems, my own abilities, so that if information is requested, I can simply zoom in to the right frequencies and translate,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and then know that I'm not fooling myself, because it's not coming from ego. I know what the
Yeah.
purity of heart feels like.
Yeah. And then it carries the same frequency that you described so well, but the animals to the humans,
Exactly.
because I know, like in my case, there was a point where my higher self said, I'm learning as much from you as you're learning from me, through the human experience. And then I remember a couple of months ago, we commune every night, and we were doing that, and I remember the you, me, we, and it, whatever complex of consciousness that was that night, saying to us the same thing. They were saying, like, we're giving you this information, um, but at the same time, we're learning from you guys, So it's the same equal energy exchange, basically, And again, it goes back to what you said too, like be human, you know, like we're giving you this information. This is what aspects of me talking to me, however I want to put it.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, uh, that's not me. That's comprises me, but I'm the key. And there we go back to the human as a hero. Like the human makes that choice to embody and align, and that's like the mission and the prize, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we could break ourselves up to explore and play with all the different aspects. And that's amazing that we can, because everybody's at their own place
Mm-hmm.
on their journey, right? And the different facets of information are going to nourish and inform people where they need to, right? It can be as granular and um, and detailed as we need it to be, but just like a toroidal field, right?
Yeah.
There's it comes in from the infinite and moves out to the infinite. To me, that's the space of the creator consciousness. So within creator consciousness is all of the detail and all of the complicatedness, as much as we could possibly want. In fact, we can always recomplicate things in a new way if we want to.
Yeah, our human aspects are good at that, aren't they?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we seem to have a lot of fun finger painting in our own
Mm-hmm.
complicated ways, right?
Yeah.
But then we come to the point of like, all right, really, how simple can this be?
Yeah.
Because yeah, I know I can complicate it and have a blast, logicking my way through anything.
Yeah.
But what is the experience of the donut hole of the toroidal field?
It's like you're right. You end up right back where you started. Yeah.
Oh,
I
totally.
love that whatever that little parable or whatever it is and I think it's a Native American, and it says, in other words, where would the Great Spirit hide what we're looking for? Where would Goddess hide what we're looking for? And in the last place, of course, would be within ourselves, right? Yeah. Now, in your work and in your experience, uh, do you get much collective intel, like what's happening, what energies are here, where are we going, that type of thing?
I do. Yes. I might relate to it differently than a lot of other people, but yes, like each time when I hear people laying it out, I I just go, excellent. Thank you for articulating that, because
Mm.
yes, I get that too. And I think a lot of it is I think I've tuned myself to function from big, big strokes.
Hmm.
And then because I know if we do want more detail, I can always zoom in
Yeah.
or somebody else will show up. But yes, like things about the virus and getting the awareness that there was a human element, there was an element of deliberate consciousness to create it. And
Yeah.
then, holy shit, what are we going to do about this? And how do we manage things like, we got to do something to manage humanity. But what I love is that the benevolence of divinity, the universe comes in and says, "Oh, look at you guys! You're playing with knives again. You guys are so cute. So, well, how about we spin this a little bit? And even though it's a pandemic and people are stuck here and there's fear, how about we start noticing that people are taking more walks? How about we
Yeah.
start noticing that
Yeah.
people are kind? How about we notice that this is what's rattling the cage enough
Yeah.
that we can call the end of the old programming
Yeah.
and bring forward the light into the new. And it, to me, again, and this is really where I can, even talking to you helps me see it more clearly, is my work, I guess, is really the integration of how simple is this actually,
Yeah.
and even however detailed it gets, what's important is, who am I and what direction am I moving?
That's right.
And that
That's
is
right.
what harmonizes
Yeah,
everything.
that's right. Where am I at and where am I going? You
Yeah.
know? Oh, what I was going to ask you. I can't remember now. Oh, I was going to make the comment that fear is a blessing. It's an absolute blessing. And on this particular trip, it's an absolute blessing. It's a
Say
gift.
more about that. Will you unpack your awareness of that?
On
Because
the fear?
yeah, that fear is a
Well,
blessing.
yeah, I mean, okay, so let me just draw an analogy.
Okay.
So let's say I love strawberry milkshakes, and there's a mom and pop shop down the street that has strawberry milkshakes that are like from Nirvana. If I go down and have a strawberry milkshake, that's a very pleasant experience. I'm in the flow. I'm enjoying everything, and that doesn't seem to have been the consistent template that we've been involved in here. There's something else going on. I believe that wherever we go, whatever timeline dimension, it's all about the soul's here to grow. The soul's a microcosm of the universe, whatever you want to call it. And the universe is always expanding. Now, in this realm, if I walk down the street and there's a big dog, comes barking at me that scares the, shift out of me. There's something there. There's something that is available to me because it's interrupted my peace. Basically, it's interrupted my flow. And I think, God, we've all been through so much now. I've just learned to really appreciate the fact, and this has actually been going on for several years. It's not always every conscious moment, because sometimes I might go into fear or go into reactions of fear to fear. But yeah, fear's my friend. I mean, it's like, okay, I remember when I woke up 8.5 years ago, I spent a lot of time walking, and just doing my own thing. And there was a lot of fear about, my kids are gone and this is gone and this has happened and I have no money, no car, no job, no nothing, no home, whatever. And the fear wouldn't go away. So I guess unconsciously, I just started to sit with it and say, hey, what are you doing? I mean, you're here. And then slowly but surely it dissipated. And Morgan was saying to me last night after her show, we were just talking, and she said, once you get down the road a little bit, if you look back at anything and everything that's ever occurred, no matter how horrible and traumatic it seemed, and that's saying a lot, you can't help but see the gift of it.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So this whole trip is about contrast and duality and polarities. And I learned, 8.5 years ago when I started this spirit walk, one of the things I learned or was shown, because I was, by my own perception, well below, into the hell of below the 0 point, into the deepest recesses of the metaphoric hell. But I was shown that, hey, as soon as you can get off the pity pot, you have gone, 100 and whatever, 11 degrees below the 0 point, which means that you can go 111 above the 0 point. In other words, they were telling me, how far you go this way, you can go that way. You can't go to 200 points above the 0 point if you've only been 100 below, and vice versa. You can't do that. You because you have no point of reference. You have no point of contrast. And I think that's, for me, kind of what fear does. It's like, okay, well, if I can get through, or when I get through this, there's a huge pot of gold on the other side.
I love that. I love that. I've had a similar awareness, like fear's only scary till you're on the other side of it. So, let's go. Like, let's just go. And I've been saying a lot lately too, like, fear, it's just information, right? And when you let fear be providing you information
Yeah.
on a sensory level, on an awareness level, on a logic, whatever it is, when you organize yourself so that all of your systems acknowledge the fear is information. Like
Yeah.
literally, I wake up in the morning and my body is responding to all sorts of frequencies, you know, because I live packed in among a bunch of humans, and fear is present. The frequency, again, everything's frequency, so let's let it be that simple, right?
Yeah.
Green is a frequency, red is a
Yeah.
frequency, fear is a frequency. Let's be in kindergarten about this, right? And my body is going, but fear, if that's all just information, the
Yeah.
experience, the emotion, the way it feels, it's information. So, all right, great. There's a lot of information passing through my cells right now. Who am I? Who am
Yeah.
I in relation to it? Am I smaller than this? No,
Yeah.
I'm creator. I am
Yeah.
love. You know, and I'll show you this. This is what I look at each day. I do not exist. Love exists. I am love. And that is
I like that.
the space within which everything
Oh,
else
I like that.
happens.
That reminds me of that old equation in elementary school. A equals B, B equals C, so therefore A equals C. you know,
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, you were talking about the whole fear thing, because there's so many different processes and modalities and schools of thought, and really they're all going up. They're all the same. You know, it's just different perspectives, and sometimes we can relate, and sometimes they resonate. But if you think about uh, what we talk about, like say alchemizing this energy and converting it to that energy, or taking a trauma and transmuting it,
right.
transforming it. But in all, one thing that applies to all of them is fear. Like, where do you
Right.
start? Well, this makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to look at it. Why don't you want to look at it? Because I'm afraid to look at it.
Right.
That's really what it is. You don't want to go do this. Why? Because I'm afraid to. And a lot of times we don't admit it. It takes a while to get there. But the fact that it comes in and it's
Mhm.
presented to us is actually the line of communication. It's the symbology, or the event, or the energy that we're trying to that's been sent to us,
Mhm.
let's say from our higher selves, that we created
Mhm.
for this experience. And and if we have that rapport,
Yeah.
then it becomes easier. You know, Morgan talked last night too about, I remember her talking about on that show, which I've heard her talk about before, doing this work that she was talking about, which you brought up earlier. It's integrating polarities, and you learn to not take it personal. You know, personal as in offended. You know, or judgmental, or damning yourself or others. But yes, but this connection, we'll call it higher self just for the sake of discussion, the higher self to the human aspect, that is that is good personal. Like, that's like, oh my God, I'm actually talking to myself,
Yeah.
and everything I do when I walk down the road or whatever I'm doing is like you were saying earlier. It's just a matter of, after you say that in the morning, how can I serve? What can I do? The trick is at that point just to see how's it going to come through.
Yeah.
How's it going to be conveyed to me?
Right. How available can I be to
Mm.
the information and to the promptings? There's something that just keeps tapping on the back of my forehead, and it's about the whole dualistic thing, and the acknowledgement that this is a dualistic realm, and all of that. And what I'm aware of that is so freaking relaxing for me is like, okay, yes, comma, and we are a creator. And this entire shift of consciousness, this entire recreation of what it is to be human in a physical form, why would we recreate the adherence or the addiction to polarity in order to know ourselves? right? I love it. Don't get me wrong. Like, let's not
Mm-hmm.
throw away the tools, because we'll let that tool and that system support us on the journey. But why not create from here a way of creator relating to creation that doesn't require contrast
Yeah.
in the form of
Yeah.
polarity in order to know itself, right? And like,
Mm-hmm.
so there's fear and there's love. When you're, like you were saying, I think, when you're willing to uh, look at fear without taking it as an offense to your
Mm-hmm.
very being, then it becomes brilliant information to help
Mm-hmm.
you neutralize and integrate polarities. From there, why would I create another polarity? Why instead would I not just say, show me where everything continues in harmony from
Yeah.
here? And that's what nature already demonstrates. You know,
Yeah.
humans have their own psychological construct that we've put onto nature to try to understand it and talk about it, and again, not throwing that away, but it's not really what nature is about.
Yeah.
Nature's self-perpetuation in harmony, and even pockets of disharmony are still harmonizing within the
Yeah.
bigger harmony, and we can
Absolutely.
now include ourselves in that, beginning through the heart center and welcoming the simplicity of that truth into the cells of my being, such that eventually the cognition reorganizes itself to
Yeah.
function in service to harmony.
Yeah. Yeah. Like she talks about the new neural pathways. Yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it goes back to what you said too. I love what you just said. Because I struggled with this at times. Uh, so you talked about at the top of the show. You talked about whatever applied today. I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and it may not even be like I'm a horse whisperer today, and tomorrow I wake up and it's no longer necessary or needed or just not part of my paradigm anymore. So the same I get what you're saying. Like people talk about this as the going from duality to the Trinity, you know, or linear to quantum.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at some point we hit uh, um, a tipping point or a threshold. We cross a threshold where the math does change. And this is one of the things that I struggled with, which was actually a kind of a like almost like you're sharpening a knife, on a whetstone. So I met Morgan, who's totally, understands this integration and the polarities and stuff. And prior to that, I had a hell of a lot of shadow that I wasn't aware of, but I was still shining my soul.
Mm-hmm.
I might spend 6 hours in the gutter with the demons, but I'd spend 6 or 8 hours lighting the world up from my heart,
Yeah.
shadow or no shadow, because that you can't. And I used to say, when you shine your soul, nothing can touch you. And if I think about the explanations you gave about the animal kingdom and such, the natural nature is you're not going out of your way to upset some, you know what I mean, to f with somebody, and just like, hey, I'm gonna go, you know be an ass to this person. It's not natural. Natural is just instinctive, basic functions, basically, things. Why would you want to go feel bad? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like it's like, to me, that's becoming, maybe because we've gotten to certain points of awareness collectively, that some of these things start to fade, and we can. What's the old saying in sports is, the best defense is a good offense. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like blow it out with light. Blow that thing out like with a high pressure cosmic, you know, energetic force, like a big fire hose. And just,
Totally. Totally. And so, oh, I love so much of what you're saying. So in 2013, I don't think you know this. I spent most of 2012 on Kauai and went there on a one-way ticket. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have anywhere to stay. I just landed and then freaked out for a little while. Ended up staying for 8 months.
Wow.
And after I came back, I don't remember if I was still there or I'd come back to California now. I remember so clearly walking down the street, and it was the beginning of 2013, like February, March. And it just dropped in. Like I literally had to stop in my tracks, and I'm like, okay, it worked. The experiment worked this time.
Hmm.
Like humanity was given absolute freedom,
Yeah.
no recourse. You create whatever you want,
Yeah.
good, bad, whatever. We're not going to steer any of it,
Yeah.
and let's see what you choose, right?
Yeah.
And for the longest time it was like, whoa, look at my power and look at what I can create with my power. But collectively, because of the 2012 and so many people being activated and saying yes, all the way back to 1987 and the harmonic convergence and the ramping up of all of that, it stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, it worked. The experiment worked.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So like even now, there's sort of a paradox with power in
Yeah.
that we want to come with the pressure washer of love,
Yeah.
but the truth is you can actually bring forth more power by relaxing into it,
Yeah.
sitting back into the truth of love, and then delegate rather
Yeah.
than pressure wash. You delegate.
Yeah.
Like if you see, you know, people doing shenanigans in the government or whatever, and you can see in between the
Hmm.
truth, and even in between truth and conspiracy theory, you can feel the low integrity. You can feel where they're coming from, and like all the density and darkness. The old version of power wants to come in with the pressure washer, but the truth of power is, I see you. I see what's going on, and I'm willing to see it all the way back to the origin. I'm going to bring forth the creator consciousness through my heart, through my own cells, through the quantumness of all that is, and call it forth. That's the
Yeah.
invocation
Yeah.
as creator. And then
Yeah.
you really start to feel that move through your body. And that's
You,
where
yeah.
your intuitive cognition can show you the difference that that's actually making.
Yeah.
And literally like a week, 2 weeks later, you're going to hear in the news how something in the government now,
That's
was
true.
exposed or whatever.
We impact a lot more. And yeah, I like what you said too, because you're basically taking you're the way you just talked about that is taking it back to what? To one, to
Exactly.
unity.
And
And that's,
acknowledgement.
I think that's the great thing about shadow or fear or whatever, is the reality is it is such a incredible blessing and gift, because it's a part of us that either we say out openly, that's not me. That
Exactly.
person is not me. What they're doing is not me. They're bad. Or it's something that's so frightening to even consider that you're not necessarily saying it's not you. You're just saying, I don't want to deal with it, which is really the same thing. So I like what you said, to be able to go back, like, they talk about, for instance, molestation,
Mm,
uh, or a rapist. What happened to that person to program to do what they did? And
right,
so you take it back, like you said,
right.
to the beginning. See, for me, I don't really like to get too caught up in the whole disclosure and what's happening globally, and look what, the banks are going to forget, all that stuff,
Right,
or oh, these people are going to be brought to justice.
right.
My thing is, wait a minute, hang on. If all this stuff happens, it's not going to be about, oh, I told you so. That's not the universe. The universe doesn't go, hey, I told you so. It's going to be about, what are you going to do with this now?
I love it.
How are you going to bring unity to these bad actors, so to speak?
Yeah.
How are you going to see yourself as one with that?
Yeah.
Where is your compassion going to be?
Yeah.
You know, when the chickens come home to roost and they want to hang people or whatever the case is, where are you going to be with that? And just like you said right now in this example, you take that back to creator, take it back to one.
Yeah.
And I don't care who you are. I don't care how many people know about it. I don't care where you're at. You could be on an island by yourself in the middle of nowhere. You will impact the collective by bringing that to unity consciousness. And that's not a cliche. That's fact. And we're seeing a lot of people come out on this show who've been doing work for 15 or 20 years quietly in isolation, who have
Yeah.
impacted this earth.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. And yes, yes, and yes, and yes. It's like the adage that people show up as seekers, like we're seeking the light, we're seeking the truth. You get to the point where you realize, well, that's really a lot of extra work, when really you come to realize that the whole point is to recognize where it already exists and emanates from you.
Yeah.
And it's to the linear mind, it's a paradox, right?
Yeah.
To to feel like you don't have the answers, you're not there yet, but the way to get there is to let it come forth.
Yeah.
And let your conscious awareness be organized to recognize the experience of it, and boom, you just closed a loop of creation.
Yeah.
And that is where all the quantum realms, like, bing, come together and go, bing, that's a point. You know, that's where wave becomes particle for just a moment, so that the physical world can come to form. But it is, and that's the specialness, that's the uniqueness of the human consciousness, is that capacity to become aware of the experience through our physicality when we have the option to be against it.
Yeah. I am that doesn't allow for I'm not that. I'm everything else, but I'm not that. No, I get it. Great conversation. We'll have to collaborate somewhere down the road again if you're up to it.
I'd love that. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's so
absolutely
so nourishing just to be among all of you guys, because I was lone wolf on my own little mountaintop forever, and it's so great to come down off the mountain and play.
You're in Florida too, aren't you?
My parents were in Florida. I'm in California. I'm near San Diego.
San Diego. Okay, cool. All right, good to know where you're at. Well, thank you so much for honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us today. And I look forward to future collaborations down the line. We're not scheduling any.
I know you guys got some movement going on soon, huh?
I don't know. We just need, like, we're scheduled through the end of the month, and we're just like, you know what? We can't schedule any more shows. We're just like, no, something's happening. I think everybody feels it, and we're just kind of in suspended state as far as scheduling stuff now. But yeah, down the road, when, you know, well, let's get together again. We just, you know, kind of like hit the tip of the iceberg here. So
yeah, no doubt. Well, if you make it out this way, let me know, and I will do whatever I can for you guys.
Thank you so much. You take care. Peace out. And
bye, everybody. Thank you, Todd.
All right. See you later.
See ya.
Take care. I enjoyed it.